The Galaxy supporters' boycott is gaining national attention. Clayton Kershaw drops out of the World Baseball Classic, and the Rams have just lost their assistant head coach. Good morning. I'm James. This is your daily dose of sports and snark for the greatest sports city in the world, Los Angeles. This is the faithful Angelenos morning report. It's February 18th, 2023. It is my mom's birthday weekend. After dropping this clip, I'm very much looking forward to going to seeing her and my sister. And to repeat, I will not be giving Trevor Bauer my sister's phone number. It's not happening. Hard pass. But let's talk LA sports. If you like the content that we put out, clickety-clack the like button. Clickety-clack the subscribe button. There's a notifications bell. Hit that. It'll let you know we drop new content. Sharing is caring. Let people know we exist. And by all means, comment. I especially am looking forward to hearing from Galaxy supporters today. This boycott is turning into something. We got to talk a little more about that today. Before we go through the news and notes, look at the scoreboard. Kings 6, Anaheim 3. Victor Arvidsson scores twice for the Kings in a very spiritual hockey game. And by spiritual, I mean the goalies almost threw down at center ice. Very much looking forward to it. Goalie fights, awesome. Meanwhile, today, Cal is at 4th ranked UCLA at 7:30. Did you know this? The Bruins have the longest home winning streak in the nation currently. 21 consecutive wins for the Bruins at Pauley Pavilion. Meanwhile, Stanford takes on USC at 7 p.m. I've been meaning to get to this. I've been talking about it on and off for the last few weeks. But there's been a reason I've been holding off on going in depth on the supporters group boycott of the LA Galaxy. It's drawing national attention now. And I have to tell you, I'm genuinely surprised at it. I thought MLS would try to join the Galaxy in quashing it, or at least quashing the attention to it. I thought MLS would ask media outlets to focus on other things. Hey, look at all these new kits we've revealed. Oh, hey, look at all the tickets that just got sold at the Rose Bowl, Apple TV. You don't need to look at the protests outside. No. All the tickets we sold. Isn't it great? And then I would go and ask the local soccer reporters if the Klein out movement is making an impact. And they would say yes. But then I would ask, how is it making an impact? And I would get no response. So there are times where I'm sitting there wondering if this boycott is like a tree falling in the woods. That is why we're talking about it now. The season hasn't started yet. Sure, about 100 people protested outside of an exhibition game. And yeah, the Galaxy rented out this fancy pants theater for a jersey reveal, and it had all the passion of a proctology exam. But how big is that in the grand scheme of things? We're starting to figure it out. Jeff Carlisle of ESPN, in my opinion, wrote a very fair article. If ESPN knows, the country is going to eventually start to hear about this. And he even accomplished something I thought was impossible. Jeff Carlisle actually got team president Chris Klein to go on the record. Chris Klein doesn't like to talk much outside of boardrooms anymore, likely for fear of being chased by a mob. So we're going to go through this article and what it means. The title of the article alone says a lot. That Galaxy fans are boycotting, but, quote, the club is calling their bluff, unquote. Calling their bluff. First of all, I don't think the supporters are bluffing. I really don't. And I also don't think calling the bluff of your fan base is a sound business practice. Could you imagine any other company trying to thrive saying, you will love our product, and if you say you don't love it, you have no choice but to buy it anyway, you peasant? Right? Does that sound right? Because if there's one thing we know about living in Los Angeles, it's that you have a lot of other choices with your entertainment dollar. And the Galaxy might just find out about that sooner rather than later. Carlisle interviewed leaders with both the LA Riot Squad and Galaxy Outlaws. Now, I thought the quotes from those supporters were fact-based and reasonable. Greg Vanney, on the other hand, the Galaxy manager, said a boycott is unlikely to work. Quote, there's things out there that fans and supporters can impact, and there's things that they're probably not going to impact. If anything, reading the story, the only guy who actually sounded emotional was Chris Klein himself. And he is the primary objective of this boycott, removing Chris Klein from the Galaxy front office. Klein said the protests hurt, which is kind of understandable on a human level, sure. But then the man added empty comments about having accountability. See, part of the problem that Galaxy supporters are having is a distinct lack of accountability. Communication from the Galaxy front office is so poor that much of the team's business sounds like a drug dealer leaning up against a mailbox. Psst, hey buddy, you need a dime bag with that right back? That's the way the Galaxy seems to communicate. And it's not just the horrible results on the pitch. The Galaxy have not been a threat to win MLS Cup since winning its last MLS Cup way back in 2014. Nobody had even considered Donald Trump a presidential threat or an even presidential hopeful at that point. That's how far back it was. What about the cheating, by the way, from the player acquisitions? In Los Angeles, we clown the Houston Astros a lot for stealing a title from the Dodgers. What if the Galaxy actually had won a title by cheating? They didn't. Chris Klein doesn't know how to build a good team, but it is still cheating. I don't defend cheating, at least not seriously. Do you take your children to a game and teach them that cheating is acceptable? I doubt it very much. So you're left asking yourself, where does Chris Klein get the nerve to talk about accountability? Now, Vanny told ESPN that the Galaxy needs to do a better job of, quote, telling our story, unquote. I don't have a problem with Greg Vanny. Greg Vanny was a terrific coach over at Toronto FC. Mixed results in LA, probably due to the poor infrastructure in the Galaxy, which was created by Chris Klein. But when you don't have a legitimate contender for almost an entire decade, when you are just as likely to miss MLS Cup playoffs as make MLS Cup playoffs, the problem is not storytelling. The problem is results. It is not a messaging problem. It is a policy problem. It is the way you're doing business. That is the reason that the supporters are furious at Chris Klein. So yes, there are about 70,000 seats sold for the MLS season opener, El Tráfico at the Rose Bowl. But Carlisle, to his credit, suggested the real impact will likely be felt March 18th instead. That would be the Galaxy's true home opener at Dignity Health Sports Park against Vancouver. Very astute. He's right. I've only seen MLS matches in 12 stadiums. Only. I've done a lot of traveling to watch this. Galaxy supporters are legit. The only supporters group that compares just as favorably are the Timbers Army up in Portland. What happens if the Rose Bowl is 2/3 black and gold? What happens if Victoria Block, the supporters section over at Dignity Health Sports Park, is vacant on March 18th? No flags, no chanting, no tifos. Just a couple of confused families walking up and down Victoria Block because they bought their tickets on StubHub and had no idea that there aren't seats there. I've held off on deciding what to do about this Rose Bowl game for almost a couple of months. I bought tickets to the match before Klein's contract was renewed, apparently in the dead of night, and not letting anybody know about it. I thought Chris Klein was going to be replaced because of the cheating scandal. I was convinced. Because even the Astros fired front office people in the wake of their cheating scandal, even though they've never apologized for cheating. I thought he was going to be out. I believe the Klein out movement is completely justified. But for this game, I'm going to go. And I wanted to respect Galaxy supporters, of which I am one, by telling them why. I'm a former newspaper reporter. And I recognize that nobody buys newspapers these days, which is why I work in healthcare now. I loved to chase stories. Always have. If something was going on that was news, I had to be there. I had to see for myself. If it was a protest, say an anti-war protest, I would go interview the protesters, get my facts straight. I need to see in person how harsh this Klein out protest is really getting, because I don't trust Apple TV and I don't necessarily trust a lot of national outlets to show me just how deep this Klein out protest is actually getting. I need to see if there are going to be protests. I need to see if there are going to be signs. I need to see if there are going to be Klein out chants. I need to see the percentage of LAFC fans in the Rose Bowl compared to Galaxy supporters. I need to see if the Galaxy are so poorly run, thanks to Chris Klein, that the city has been surrendered to LAFC. I have to know this. And then I have to find out if AEG actually cares that they lost LA, if they did. And after that, I'll join the boycott. But I just need to know. As for the game itself, Vandy told the local press Chicharito is day-to-day with a hamstring issue that popped up during an exhibition game last weekend. Now, for his part, the player said he's going to be ready for El Tráfico. Clayton Kershaw is backed out of the World Baseball Classic. This is not due to injury, but because everybody expects him to get injured. Players have to be insured in order to participate in the event. Nobody's going to insure him. He's missed time over the last few years to back injuries, knee, elbow, forearm. Kershaw said he really wanted to participate, and I believe him, because the World Baseball Classic is just straight up dope. It is awesome. If you have a chance to go, particularly if it involves a country from Central America or South America or Asia, you should absolutely go, no doubt. Anyway, Kershaw turns 35 next month. He knows it's probably his last chance at the World Baseball Classic. Former Dodger slugger Edwin Rios is signed with the Cubs. The dude could hit. There just wasn't a spot for him in LA. They cut him for that reason in November. I don't think of this as a correction, but yesterday I mentioned that Walker Buehler is not expected to pitch this year for the Dodgers because the recovery time, rehabilitation time for Tommy John surgery is more than a calendar year. There is one person who has faith Buehler will pitch this year, though. That's manager Dave Roberts, but that's just more feeling than anything factual. Speaking of pitchers recovering from Tommy John surgery, there will be a pitch or innings limit on Dustin May. The Dodgers just don't know what it is yet. Roberts also said Noah Syndergaard's velocity has improved since last year. How hard? Well, Roberts didn't get into specifics there either. But Syndergaard said he thought he could top 100 miles an hour regularly again. Rams assistant head coach Thomas Brown is leaving LA to become the new offensive coordinator over at Carolina, which is fitting. The dude's main qualification for the job is that he had to help scheme up plays for John Wolford and Bryce Perkins. So when you think you're coaching Sam Darnold, you have plenty of experience coaching people who have no legitimate reason to be under center in the NFL. Jalen Ramsey replied to a tweet from the Belcher Report and said that there is no chance he'll get cut by the Rams, and he's right. I replied the same damn thing to that same stupid tweet from the Belcher Report. Yes, the Rams are significantly over the salary cap, but I would like to remind the scribes across the NFL that Ramsey is a unicorn. He's a shutdown corner. He's made 6 consecutive Pro Bowls, and you can line him up anywhere on the field. And oh, by the way, Pro Football Focus said he's the best in the league against the run. Not just as a defensive back, as any defensive player, he is number 1 against the run by their metrics. So national press, when it comes to Jalen Ramsey, until you actually have something factual, shut the hell up. USC linebacker Eric Gentry underwent ankle surgery on Thursday, which means he is likely missing all of spring practice. You might recall his ankle was first messed up in the Trojans' regular season loss at Utah. He missed games. He came back, but apparently the procedure was necessary. He simply wasn't 100%. The Trojans love Gentry, but despite missing all that time, he was 3rd on the tackles with 71. He is an emotional leader on the team. Missing spring ball, however, might necessitate a position change. USCFootball.com speculated that if either Tackett Curtis or transfer Mason Cobb can impress the coaching staff at middle linebacker during spring, they might just decide to switch Gentry from middle linebacker to defensive end. The Kings have recalled Tobias Bjornfoot from Ontario, by the way. ESPN sized up the Chargers defense like this. The secondary is just okay, outside rushers elite, but the inside linebacker and interior defensive line need to change. Big whoop. But ESPN did report something that I thought was rather interesting. Reporter Lindsay Theory does not believe that the team can retain Drew Tranquill, who is an inside linebacker, who is also the play caller and the team's leading tackler. That's disturbing. Also, I think the idea that they wrote that Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa staying healthy for an entire season, that's a pretty risky assumption. So just getting that out there. The Clippers have waived center Moses Brown after 34 games. Keep in mind, he was a two-way player, which meant he was bouncing between LA and the G League. He averaged only 4.6 points per game. To replace him, they added a guard. Not that guard. Nate Darling also played for the Clippers G League team in Ontario. He averaged 21 points per game down there. But you let me know what you think in the comments thread, particularly if you're an LA Galaxy supporter. Or let me know what you think about the Dodgers pitching staff. And if you enjoyed this content, don't forget to subscribe to Faithful Angelenos. We talk LA sports every single day here. Thank you for watching. I'm James. We'll be back tomorrow. Faithful Angelenos is a Kian Corte El Queso production. Take care.